You got to be quick on those. New high. Yeah, I saw this pop up after hours to 7 and then drop back down. So letting the 5 minute chart pull back a little bit. You've got this little shooting star candle, sort of topping tail candle right there. We had that rejection. So now we're kind of in a range. So this area is $1 a share range, but I don't want to buy the top of that range right now because I feel like that'd be too extended. I'd be getting in where we just had that rejection. But I'm also not confident to get in the middle of the range because when I look over at the bigger time frame, like the 5 minute, it's just extended with a topping tail. And then combine that with the fact that the stock doesn't fit within the theme and it doesn't feel super safe. So there it goes again. So is this a company that needs to raise money? Are they selling shares? Or is this just a stock that shorts are more aggressive on because it's not on the theme? So 1.9 million share float as of May. Okay. Cash as of March, 2.6 million share, 2.6 million dollars, showing a lot of accounts receivable and a lot of inventory. Revenue, cost of revenue, comprehensive loss, net loss for taxes. So losing $1 million a quarter with only $1 million of cash on the balance sheet, or 2 million on the balance sheet. Hmm. I don't know. They've got a shelf from 2024. So resistance, I am more inclined to take the breakouts through resistance when the stock really closely meets the theme and the 5 pillars of stock selection and feels really strong. When I'm not as confident, then I'm less inclined to take that trade up at those highs. Yeah, LNSR had news earlier, had commented on that, but popped up, dropped down, U.S. medical equipment supplies. Leaving that alone. Is it easy to borrow as well? LNSR. Yep, easy to borrow. So, no, not touching that. It's not on a theme. So, this is very important. We've had a theme this week and the last few weeks, primarily no new stocks. This week, we've had some cheaper stocks and penny stocks. This is both FGI and LNSR just don't fit well within the current theme, and so it's better just to be hands off for right now. There are beginner traders out there who are going to be jumping in these because they don't haven't really figured out this whole concept of a theme. And so, yeah, you'll see some volume in these, but then they're going to get slammed back down. More experienced traders are leaving them alone. You're not going to see the follow through. Short sellers, more and more sophisticated, are going to trade these to the short side. They're kind of easy little layups. And so I think it's important to be patient. Another theme has been that the stock is really obvious, and we don't have one right now that's really obvious. So it's going to take a little time for something to be probably up enough that it's the leading gainer. But the theme has continued to primarily be Chinese stocks with no news, with the exception of some um, penny stocks or lower price stocks, right? But OFAL, no news, penny stock from China. And this made its big move yesterday. I'm not going to trade it today because it's on the backside, but yesterday it ended up going from, it was all halts at the open, but all the way up to 400, 380% gain. I think if something is able to get up over 100%, then, I can start paying closer attention to it. Well, it doesn't have to be over 100%, but I just think if we have something over 100%, That's a good kind of vote of confidence that it's up a substantial amount and it's holding. MACD is currently negative on FGI. The socket, we traded that the other day. So 7:30, bottom of the hour, REBN hitting the scanners. We've traded this before, Reborn Coffee. Hasn't done especially well in the past, so I don't have really high hopes for it. FGI broke to a new high and then broke back down below that resistance level. Kind of similar to what it did before, where it broke by like 5-10 cents and then dropped back down. So let's see. FGI, leading global supplier of kitchen and bath products. Okay. Never heard of them. Today announced results for second quarter. So that was yesterday. So earnings. So you've got a little double top there at 920, 919. No trades on it at this point for me. I might get to a point where I feel good about it, but if it's moving quickly enough, um, I'm glad to see that it broke out there, but I'm still a little iffy on it. I don't think I would probably feel comfortable taking big size, uh, but yeah, we'll see. So that right there was your break of the new high, and it goes right into that flush. I never like seeing that, a break of the new high and then a flush back down. So my screen shows the ticker. Um, behind the chart. It sort of depends on how my chart's lined up a little bit. I think my biggest loser might be, well, they might be tied. They might be about tied, biggest winner and biggest loser. But it for a long time, the biggest loser was bigger for many years. I so the thing on cost is that yeah, I had some good trades on that, but I got in, got out, got in, got out, got in, got out. So it wasn't like I had one huge winner, but I did have one $240,000 loser, right? So and that was just one big huge loss. So just looking at my metrics. So yeah, my biggest loser right now is $243,000. That was that one really bad one, and then my biggest winner's 227,000, and that was I think just last year on ZOOZ. Yeah, ZOOZ. This was a stock that just absolutely exploded from $3 up to 9. Yeah, I just, someday maybe I'll have I could see, last year it happened and I could see it happening again this year that if we had a really good day and I was sized up with 50 or 60,000 shares and suddenly we got like $4 or $5 a share, like a just instant spike that I could potentially have, a winner that's bigger. But it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really happen that often because usually I am scaling out and then adding back. So I'm getting in, getting out, getting in, getting out. And so, I can have a stock that I might make $200,000 on, but it's through like 20 trades, which is fine. I mean, I have no problem with that. But I guess, yeah, maybe sometimes I think, oh, if I had just held that huge position for 10 points, I could have made like whatever, whatever. But, uh, that's just typically not the way I trade. And uh, right, that's right. There was one last year that I was up. I had like 30,000 shares, and I was up like 5 points. And I kept adding. I was like, here we go. This is like gonna be amazing. And that was a more expensive one. I think it was like $30 or $40 a share. And then it flushed down, and in an instant, I went from big green to um, red. It's crazy. It's like a $300,000 swing. But what are you gonna do? Yeah, maybe it was SBET. So, that was one of those times where was in, I felt like I had such a big cushion. I just kept going and um, I could have just taken profit, but I didn't. Um, the months that are hotter, well, so the colder months typically are the summer. This summer, June was the best month of the year, so it's not always the case. August and September are typically colder. We've had some big moves this month so far. They haven't all been easy to trade, but we have had some big moves. So, yeah, but typically I expect the fall, October, November, December, January, February to be a good period. Usually is, but there's exceptions. So just staying tight right now. We'll see if we get anything else that pops up at 8 a.m. So as we come up here to the top of the hour, as of right now, I don't feel like we really have anything that's particularly obvious. Um, so, I'm not sure. I haven't taken any trades yet, but we still have an hour and a half, 90 minutes to the opening bell. So there's certainly time for something else to come out with news and become obvious. But this is actually kind of tricky because if a lot of the Chinese stocks that have made big moves have had no news, how did they become obvious? And in most cases, it's because they started moving higher at like 4 or 5 a.m., on relatively light volume. But then they just kept moving higher. So for a no news Chinese stock to now begin trading and slowly make its way high, I don't know if that's going to happen. Um, but we'll see. Well, these are U.S. publicly traded companies, so I mean they're publicly traded on the U.S. market, so they should be releasing their news through U.S. market channels. But yeah, I kind of agree with that as well. That if it was Chinese and with news, I might think this is maybe not even going to work. So today might end up being a little bit of a miss, but we'll see. Still got some time. Sort of think of why XT is being on the backside of that big move from last week. A time frame for the themes. Some themes can last for months, and others are short lived. They come and go. So, they sort of, a theme will emerge as a stock makes a big move, and then traders are like, wow, all right, I want to get the next one that's like it. And then traders are jumping on the next one, and, all of a sudden you've got a bit of a theme that's emerged. I didn't see that seller, but maybe I just missed it. But it is a little tricky, like I said, because on the backside of that big move, back here. So anyone who's looking at it is sort of measuring today's move relative to that. So, yes, we're coming back up towards like 792, but is that enough? Continuation isn't usually a theme that works well. Yeah, I mean, trading backside, like continuation standalone, if you were considering this to be continuation, usually these don't give us really big moves. So just sitting tight. Oh, FGI popping up again. About 10 minutes to the bottom of the hour. Ricardo, we don't have that set up yet, but that is something we're working on. So a little resistance at 977. Then you've got room up towards 11. This one feels like a little sluggish, like it just kind of isn't able to open up. And I'm really not even seeing that much green on the tape. It's a lot of red. The daily chart has a resistance, a high candle at 977. That's a great point. Considering the float, the range is surprisingly small. Cost to borrow at Lightspeed is 10 cents per share from the cheapest vendor. So in addition to that daily resistance level, you also would have some ascending resistance up here around probably like 1050. I do consider volume and float rotation. I do. And this one has high volume, 25 million shares, and good float rotation. Um, but you know, I don't know. Something's holding it back. Maybe it's just heavy on shorts because you've got it's because not on theme. It's a U.S. company on earnings. Maybe the company's selling. I think I saw that they had a shelf registration. Yeah, they do. They are losing money, but I mean, it's a pretty big business. I mean, they're pulling in a lot of money, but they're just operating a bit of a loss. I will sometimes do dips at VWAP. I wasn't confident enough on this one, and I wouldn't typically do that as my first trade. That's not a good icebreaker trade because it is higher risk, but in this case, it worked. And so, as long as you understood your risk on it, oh, okay, no, you're right. I see that. So um, the I was looking at their what was I looking at then? Oh, so they've announced their second quarter earnings, but they haven't actually filed it as a 10Q yet. So they're giving you like a summary announcement. Yeah, that is interesting. So it's showing that they went from a loss um, over that period to a profit. Operating expenses declined. Da, da, da. So again, though, it's I don't know. For whatever reason, it's still sluggish, grinding, not pulling away. Every time it starts to pop, sellers just fill right in. So I don't know. Someone's selling. Not sure who. Excuse me. All right, so we've got about 3 minutes to the bottom of the hour. You could argue Cust, KUST, is also, very low flow US company, custom entertainment, and it never really performs that well in spite of being low float, right? So, yes, low float tends to be better, but that's not always the case. You can have stocks that are low float and they, I don't know. You know, this is a stock that keeps doing reverse splits. They keep diluting. They keep going lower, selling more shares. FGI doesn't really have that same history, but they've got a double top at 1243 on the daily. I would say that if it was able to get over that level, um, that starts to get pretty interesting. Um, I show the all-time high on this, and correct me if you see a different level, as being up around like $25 a share, $30 a share. Looks like 31. So, you know, just in context, we've seen stocks that the all-time high is like $10 million because of so many reverse splits. So at least, you know, if it started to get above that level, um, now actually let's do a little volume calculation on this. This would be kind of interesting. So I'm just going to pop out. I'm going to use a different chart for a second. So let's just look at volume. Today has 25 million shares of volume, right? We know that. So let's just measure the volume from this day back here on September 2025 to current before today. Had 79 million shares of volume over the last year. 79 million shares of volume in the last year. It's traded a third of that, more than a third of that at this point today. So that's kind of interesting. I find that interestingly. So the highest volume day back here was at September, where we had 40 million shares, and it hit that high of, you know, whatever that was. Let's hit the scanner here. EDBL. I think we've kind of gone to the well too many times on this one. I don't think I'm going to take any trades on that. So then prior to that day, back in September of last year, it traded from the very beginning to there another 66 million shares, which means its total volume ever is coming out to about 103 million shares. And it might trade 100 million shares today. So then you could argue, if there were any, you know, traders on the public markets that bought this at any of these prices, the amount of shares that they own, because these were all very light volume days, like all of these days here are completely negligible in terms of volume. Those are like nothing. Even the first day of trading was only 10 million shares. So those are very light volume days. So you can kind of disregard them to a certain extent, because I just don't, with such light volume, I just don't know if it's going to be that well respected. So then it's really this area here that is the higher, you know, higher volume period from that day on in September of 2025 with a high of 1262. So this sort of reaffirms in my mind that if it got above 1262, you know, then I think it could start to move maybe much faster. But I could be wrong. I mean, that won't be true if the company is selling shares into this move. You could argue that they don't need to, because now they've just swung into profitability. But selling some shares when the stock is up, you know, 70, 80%, even if they sold 1 million shares, you know, could put $8 million on the balance sheet. And they only had $2 million on the balance sheet as of the, well, so again, in this headline that they posted doesn't say what their cash on the balance sheet is. Oh, wait, no, maybe it does. Okay, sorry. Okay, so it's gone up to $4 million, actually. So, I mean, yeah, they could still sell and put more money. But that generally is, you know, when you sell more shares, you can only do that so much before you suppress the price of the stock, and you know, kind of send a discouraging message to shareholders. So, you know, I'm not sure why this one is as thickly traded as it is. Sometimes we just don't know. Well, no, they could do that. So the only reason, again, that's the question is why don't they just leave the stock and let it go up much more and then sell later when it goes higher? Probably for the same reason that we sell when we have profit, because you don't know how much higher it's going to go. And on a day when it has 25, 30 million shares of volume by 8:30, there's a lot of liquidity to support the selling. If they wait and then tomorrow it only has 500,000 shares of volume, there won't be the liquidity to support selling. So they have to sort of play that game of do we suppress the price too soon, or do we um, start selling, or do we hold out and hope that it keeps going higher? And ultimately, that's why the companies use investment bankers who have traders at the desk who are making these decisions that know about price action and understand, where to sell and when to not sell to at least a certain degree. So, now we've got this lower price stock, surging higher, which we've seen this game a bit, right? Now, the problem here is that some traders, are going to jump in this quickly because they're just like, oh, I don't want to miss the move. And what ends up happening is you end up getting just a big topping tail. This does have a 40 plus million share float. Oh, there it is. There it is, right? See, look at that. Look at that. That's crazy. That's crazy. See, I honestly though, I didn't think that was going to happen, and I have my order right now for 15,000 shares. I was ready to punch it, but then I was like the float's too high. Shorts got squeezed. That's what it was right there. And honestly, Jess probably was in that and is going to say in a minute, I was just up $600,000 unrealized, and Schwab wouldn't sell any of it because that went for a couple of seconds. And that's, but isn't that crazy? I mean, those were real orders that went through up there. Um, could the exchange cancel those? I mean, they could. They've done that before, but I think this is also a really, really good lesson on the risk of shorting. Because what's the most you could have made shorting a stock at $1 a share? Covering at zero, right? That's the most you could have made is if you covered at zero. And what could you have lost? Well, it just went to $18 a share. So you could have lost quite a lot. I don't think they will get canceled because I don't. The trades from 2 days ago on Socket didn't get canceled, so I don't really think they will. To be honest, they could, but I don't think so. So now on Socket, when it pulled back, we did get a dip and then a curl. Because of how much it's up, I don't know. It's a 46 million share float though. So I had the idea there in the 230s, and I hesitated on it. Um, Darn it! Now I've kind of missed this curl. All right, well, it's fine. I messed up. What are you gonna do? So I got a starter here, just 5,000 shares. Just doing little scalps on this right now. All out. So be very careful on this. I'm just doing little. I just did a little scalp there just to break the ice. So current high is now 626. I only got a partial fill in my order too, which is a shame, but that's okay. So that went up 1,700%. So this is now our leading gainer for sure. So this might be a false breakout here. I'm just not totally sure because we're so extended. I don't know if we get a nice pullback right in this area. I'll just leave an order. Let's see, the high here was 626. So, yeah, if we break that level, then all right. So add it up here. Now on this, looking for the squeeze through 7. Good. Take the scalps, take the profit when you got it. So now watching this over 750. So added right here. Now looking for the squeeze through 750. So looking for that acceleration higher. So now we've got some action we can work with. So watching this and looking for a squeeze up towards 8. So watching this dip here. As soon as I see 715 print, I'm going to add. So watching the break of 715. There it is, added. Now looking for a squeeze up to 750. Holding 17,000 shares, letting it dip. So watching, average is 69. So watching this area here. Buying the dip at 55 for the pop back up over 65, 70. So let's see what this does up here. So we want to see this break and hold over 7. So letting it dip down, holding 5,000 shares. So going to let it pull back and then look for the next curl back up. So currently we're up 550%. Watching, added down here. There we go. Now looking for 650. Let's see if we get over 655, 660. Nice. Holding 2,000 shares. Flat for right now. So the high back there was 751. So just like back here, back over 6, ended up giving that curl. Here, I would watch back over like 675 or 7. Just make sure you're managing your risk. At the dip down here, it feels like to me it's basing out. So now watching over 75 and 80 and looking for this to curl through $7. So let's watch here. Watch 675. I feel like there's a short that's stuck on this. And if we break through 7, they're going to start covering. So watching this up over 675. Holding right now. So watching 675. Got a break over 650. So watching first 645, 655. Big buyer down there at 88. So every time it bounces off that level, and that's where I'm wondering if there's a short. So watching 650. Right? Added down there 612. Looking for 635, 645. We want to see this curl through 650. We want to see those shorts give up. So now added at 37. Can we squeeze through 650 here? So 623 on the ask. Watching 35 and 45 for the breakthrough 650. We're up 575% here. Now, taking the loss. All right, well, gave it a try. Stopped out at 96 and 79. So my exit there was well timed. That was the point where it needed to either break to the upside or if it breaks to the downside, I'm out. FGI curling back up. So attention shifting back to this one as it's coming up to the high. So I would watch FGI over 950. Now I've got a little cushion on the day, so I could afford to take some risk. So watching, you've got 35, there's 45, nice. Hmm. Goes to 58 and stalls out. Sold half half and then full, I think, on XHG. So, well, I had profit, but on that last trade with 26,000 shares, I lost about 20 cents, um, or 25 cents. Or no, it was, wait, what was it? Well, I lost about 10,000 on it. So I guess maybe it was 30 cents. I think I had about 30,000 shares by the end of it. Very interesting. All right, so coming up to 9 a.m. here. John mentioned FGI has a conference call starting at 9. I don't know if that's gonna, I don't know what that's gonna do. Obviously, the stock's not been super easy to trade. I don't know, Tyler. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm annoyed I didn't pull the trigger down at like 225, 230 because that's where I did it on socket and it worked out nicely. But this one, the float being higher is what was throwing me off. Oh well. Yeah, and you might be right that the float is wrong because they have had a number of reverse splits. What are other people showing as the float? 46, 46. Hmm.